And welcome back to the 6th episode of Hawkeye. I'm your host Cian Hughes, and today on the panel we have Liam Glennon, Kevin Byrne and Liam Donoghue. Today on the show we're looking back on all the weekend's actions in the All-Ireland semi-final. Firstly, Mayo versus Tipperary. What seemed easy to predict on paper, with Mayo running out handy winners in the end on a score of 520 to 313. Mayo were firing on all cylinders, with Killian O'Connor scoring 4-9. But Tipperary were the cause of their own demise, missing two massive goal chances in the first 5 minutes and setting up one of Mayo's third goal. What were your thoughts on the game?
I was disappointed, to be honest. I was hoping Tipperary would win, just even as underdogs. I hope they'd take the win, but obviously in the end, a bigger result than I think all of us even expected. I kind of had a hunch that Mayo would win in the end, but didn't think it'd be by that big of a margin. Obviously, Killian O'Connor being the main reason of that, it's super. But I thought Tipperary were flat-footed, and I thought they were really lacking leadership out there.
Yeah, Mayo really put on a show first. Killian O'Connor 4-9 is remarkable in the All-Ireland semi-final. And I was hoping Tipperary would, put it up to them, but lots of silly mistakes, and you can't be making mistakes like that in an All-Ireland semi-final and expect to get away with it. Like Mayo really did clamp down, and they made the most of their chances.
Yeah, like defences really weren't on top, and I just thought, like at the start of the game, I thought we were going to have a close game, more entertaining, and Mayo pulling away just didn't really make a contest of it. One thing I took from Mayo's performance, their defending was horrendous. I think Cavan had at least 10 goal chances. If they do the same to the Dubs, I just don't see them being able to be in the contest at all.
Yeah, no, I agree with Liam with this completely. I thought the Mayo defence was shocking. I think, to a small team like Tipperary, obviously there's still good forwards in that line. You see lads like Conor Sweeney. But if Mayo defence play like that against Dublin, you see lads like Kieran Kilkenny and Dean Rock to defend against them. Don't stand a chance.
Yeah, I think Conor Sweeney was a bit slow to get going. He missed the goal chance off the bat, and then he kind of a few frees he got, but it took him first half to really get into it. And we did see that. We did see Tipperary improve as they went along, to kind of get more into the game and start playing football, which is good to see. But it just took them too long to get into the game.
It's them sort of early game chances that really define the game.
Also great to see Tom Parsons back from injury for Mayo.
Yeah, but you look at like the 2 goal chances that they missed at the start, it makes such a big difference to the game. And I thought if Tipperary, scored them goals, it would just be a completely different game.
Two brilliant saves there.
Fantastic saves, yeah. But I just thought that really, if they had scored them, it'd be very different, and that, it just shows that whichever team kind of comes out into a game wanting it more, and whichever team gets into the game at the start quicker, that's usually a good indication of who's going to win it.
Do you think the game would have been cancelled if it was tighter at half time?
I don't know now. The fog now looked very bad near the end. Like obviously, obstructing conditions and everything, and it's just being able to see the ball and everything. But look, like you said, it was obviously a bigger, wider margin between the two teams, and kind of knew in the end that there was no tip comeback. Kind of dropped their heads near the end of the game, but no, I don't think they would be able to call something like that off.
If the women's semi-finals had been delayed at all, I know they were treated very poorly. They were only allowed 15 minutes to, obviously they wanted the game to be held in Gaelic grounds in Limerick, but obviously that couldn't go ahead because the lads hurling team wanted to train. Then it was moved to Parnell Park, and then they said, the pitch is frozen over, we couldn't use that, so they decided last minute to change it to Croke Park, and they were only allowed 15 minutes in the dressing room.
Although the Galway manager did come out and say that he told the referee his team was ready without giving them notice.
But just saying, if they were allowed any more time, or if that game was allowed, I think they were allowed maybe 4 minutes to warm up.
True.
And obviously, if they were allowed to train, or that game was if the starting time was moved on any more, then the men's game would have been delayed, and we could have seen it cancelled at half time.
Secondly, in the other semi-final, Dublin played Cavan. It started off as a tight game in the first half, where it scored 12 points to 7 at half time, but as time went on, Dublin wore them out and won well in a score of 124 to 12 points. In your opinion, who stood out the most?
Yeah, and Dublin obviously, yeah, it's typical of Dublin winning All-Ireland semi-final now, they go on to the final boy, and yeah, the scoreline really doesn't show in the game. Like Cavan really played without fear, you know, they gave it everything they got, which was good to see, and yeah, it's a sad end now to their season.
Yeah, look, I don't think Dublin even played as good as they could, and sure, like, look at the score, like, they still won emphatically. So I thought there was a few good players on Dublin. I thought Brian Fenton again played fantastic. He's definitely up there for Player of the Year this year for me. He just shows he's a modern midfielder. He's scoring points and he's winning balls in the centre. He's completely commanding that middle third. Kieran Kilkenny again scored 4 points. Another mark like we were talking about last week. They're using it well to their advantage. And Dean Rock as well scored, I think, 4 out of 6 points from play, which shows he doesn't have to just rely on free kicks to make his mark. But I didn't see anybody stand out for Cavan really. Martin O'Reilly played well, scored a few early points, but that's about it.
And just think, you saying who stood out for you, I don't think really anyone stood out for me in the Dublin team. I think they work really well as a unit. I thought one man, Sean Bugler, who's normally been playing good this year, he was very quiet. But just everybody else picked up on his slack, and it's just, you see like 8 different scores for Dublin, and no one's really like that far ahead. You saw like Conor Sweeney scoring 1-9. He's their main man for Tip, and like you see Dean Rock only with 6 points. He's the highest, and Robbie McDady's our wing, like Dublin's wing back, getting 1-2, and he played great his first game in.
It just shows that the Dublin team, they have players from all positions who can take on the ball, get scores. Like it's really impressive to have players in all positions that can do that.
Yeah, they're a very versatile team. We can literally bring on, like Kevin said, a player as good as the man who just came on, fire a few players. But I think I thought Cavan had good drive as well at the start of the game. I forgot to mention that we only went in at the break. It was only I think 7 points to 12 Dublin were ahead. So it was kind of like that a lot early games in the season with Dublin, the championship. They were kind of took them a while to start off. I think they were playing, was it Louth or Laois? They were playing in one of the games in the quarterfinals. And even at the start, you know, such a small team was picking up to them, and then all of a sudden, the second half is just when Dublin really shine.
Do you think Cavan can pick up from this? Like obviously we're in the first Ulster Championship for a few years. I think they can go on well next year as well. I think this is just a flash in confidence.
It was a brilliant achievement to win the Ulster. You know, it's like you see the 2 big heavyweights in Ulster, which is Tyrone and Donegal. But like to get out and win Ulster like that, it's a bit of a Tipperary story almost. You know what I mean? But I thought it's really great for Cavan now. Like we said last week, Tyrone are kind of on the rebuild now. So between Donegal and Cavan, I think they're really making a mark in Ulster now.
Yeah, I definitely think they can continue on. It's crucial though that they don't take too much from this loss. You know, they keep the foot on the pedal, keep going. You know, training hard, and then come back into the league where you know fresh heads and play to the best of their abilities.
I don't think that anyone really is that far behind the Dubs. So just the Dubs really got started on their strength and conditioning just a few years before everybody else, and it's really shown. I definitely think Cavan can be up there for All-Ireland finalists, if not winners, in the next few years. Like just the form they showed this year winning the Ulster, it's just been brilliant.
Can you see Mayo getting anywhere close to Dublin in the All-Ireland final?
I personally can't. I think, like, obviously what Liam said, they did get their strength and conditioning, and they were early in, and they're a very modern team. But sure, you look at the funding and the numbers they have. Obviously, you're not choosing the whole population of Dublin, but you have 1.5 million or so people in the county of Dublin. And I think they should be split up. Personally, I think it's like it's a one-horse race really the last few years.
They're getting 15 million more in the last 10 years than Cork. The team will get the second most amount of money from the GAA. Right? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like that is allowed to go on. Dublin is probably the most populated place in Ireland, and they're getting funds like that on top of that. You know, they've such a big bunch to pick from with players, and other teams, you know, they'll be scraping together players for a team, and funding is low for other teams, and everything is players commuting, driving
It's
from
close to professional. It's close to professional.
players commuting, driving back. Some players could be working up in Dublin, driving back to their home counties to play or train for an All-Ireland, whereas Dublin, is at that advantage.
Yeah, I do agree with the funding situation. I think it's not even fair. Like Cork have over 1 million in their population, they're not even getting close to what Dublin are getting. Whatever about that, I wouldn't agree with Dublin being split up.
Last 10 years, you would never have said they need to be split up. It's just the last 10 years where they've shown how they can dominate that people are saying it.
You just see like the championship's meant to be a competition, and especially this season you've noticed that Dublin haven't came across any heavyweights like Mayo or Kerry yet. They're also coming up against Mayo, but like I just steamrolling every team. I just don't think it's enjoyable to watch really.
Well, you could have said that about Kerry in past years. They're winning 4 in a row and 3 in a row. There's never been any talk of splitting Kerry into 2, so.
Look, it might be
6
just
in a row, and there was tight games back then. Like every game,
Well,
Dublin.
you're saying that, but
The thing is,
Dublin have had tight games in every single one of their finals.
It-
2 of them went to replays, and there's been 1-point games, there's been 3-point games. I
Even
think the highest was Tyrone with 6 points.
Leinster Championship against Kildare, they absolutely steamrolled them. Like, there was no competition at all. It's almost a given now that Dublin will be the
But they do have a very good team at this moment.
And they obviously work hard.
And the
but-
Leinster Championship is a completely different story than the All-Ireland.
But you still see good teams, like a team like me, obviously it's still a young team, but Dublin destroyed them. They annihilated them on the pitch. Like,
I think it all goes back to funding though, all the same. Like Dublin getting 16 million maybe in the last 10 years more than everybody else. It's like,
Well,
it's fun.
In Leinster, just Dublin have far more clubs, far more population.
yeah.
So you could say they need it, but I do agree that they're getting a bit too much.
But if they have far more clubs and they get far more money, do you not think that they should be split up? If they have more clubs and more population.
That fun.
Well, they've always had that much clubs.
And it's going
But
to
they didn't always have that much funding.
Yeah.
I wouldn't agree with the splitting up. I'd agree with the funding.
Yeah, but
I definitely would agree.
The Kerry team that won 4 in a row, you knew they came to the end, but this Dublin team doesn't look like it's going to stop.
Yeah, it just looks like have lads filtering up from the younger teams coming up, and it's going to be, I think, the same Dublin team unless change is made.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
even the
I
same
don't-
with
I don't-
the
I don't
Leinster
see
Championship,
change, yeah.
even it's just harder for teams to get out of the Championship. Like you see, they do by province, you see smaller teams like Longford, or like a big province like Leinster, and then a small province like Connacht, and then to have such a heavyweight in Leinster and such a big amount of teams. I just think it's harder to get in. I think it should be an all Ireland, a full country knockout rather than provincial.
You're saying that the funding is so high and the players they have coming up are what's giving them like the wins or the strength. But I think there's about 9 players of that starting team that come from the same under 21 team that won the All-Ireland. Like you're saying, like if we're getting so much funding and our like the way they're bringing up players is so good, then how come Dublin aren't winning minor All-Irelands?
You've got to look at the numbers they have. Like I said, it started at 1.5 million population for the county. Do you know what I mean? It's like surely that's causing like it's unfair. You look at Longford.
But this has only started the last 10 years, so there's no way that they could possibly win minor. I'd say in the next 5 years, you'll start seeing them win minor and under 21.
Longford's
Yeah.
population is something like 50,000 compared
Yeah.
to 1.5 million.
It's just it's only going to get worse. I think personally, players they've come through just the same tier as the players they have already. Like there's no drop in standard at all.
Well, that's it from us. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week for our preview of the All-Ireland final.
Hello and welcome back to Hawkeye. I'm here today with Cueva and Siobhan. Again, we're here to talk about what happened at the ladies football at the weekend. We'll kick off with what a final we had in the All-Ireland Junior. Fermanagh, I had to predict a quick blow, I know that. Fermanagh came back at our game and won 2-9 to 12 points. Brilliant game. Siobhan?
Yeah, I think we all predicted a Wicklow for that game. I think Fermanagh really did show that they are there and they want to win and progress. Roisin McDonald hit the net in the first minute for Fermanagh. Obviously there was doubts around the fitness of their captain, Courtney Murphy, all week. So it was no shock really seeing her withdrawn and Sarah Jane Jones come in her place. Wicklow were always really playing catch up in the game and they were never ahead, but Mary Kelly and an excellent goal for them managed to draw in the second half. Only Fair Smith's goal to shake them off. Fermanagh also had their goalkeeper Sean Murphy, who denied substitution Sinead McGinn's goal and super save for a minute.
At the very end, yeah.
So Wicklow probably look back at their performance of dominance and feel they should have converted more chances, but altogether Fermanagh did that with a good performance.
Yeah, Fermanagh very much deserved. Keelan?
Yeah, no, Fermanagh, as we said last week, Emer Smith scoring a fantastic goal in the final 13 minutes, so that secured them their All-Ireland junior title in 3 years, so they put last year's loss behind them and powered through it, and that made them return now to intermediate in 2021, so there's lots to see from them. But Wicklow were always playing catch up, as Siobhan said, and only 2 minutes in, Roisin McDonald and Aoife Flanagan had Fermanagh up by 1-1, so it was a great performance for Fermanagh from the start, and they looked fully dominant on the field, you must say.
Yeah, I know the managers are all Fermanagh. They're actually it's a true man, and obviously London ladies, we played against them last year, and every bit of analysis I did London before, Fermanagh had scored a goal or a point within 30 seconds. They always tried to win the throw-in, and straight away they got a goal. Wicklow for me should have had that homework done. That is Fermanagh's trademark. They love scoring early, getting on top. Once they get on top, as you say, Wicklow were playing catch up, and I just know playing football, you'd rather be ahead because the other team have to work even harder to try and catch you. So knowing that there, that was the big difference. Smith again, fantastic. 1-1 from play and 4 points from frees. She's only 18, 19. She's so young. The Fermanagh team have a lot to give now. As they go up in the intermediate. We've seen Louth competed. Louth were very, very good after winning last year, so I actually think this Fermanagh team will do very well in intermediate, possibly challenge, maybe not at the top, but definitely will be there in a few years hopefully. So yeah, and then obviously the other big game of the weekend was the All-Ireland Senior Ladies semi-final between Cork and Galway. A lot of controversy around this game beforehand, obviously with the pitch selection. We'll talk about that after. We'll talk about the game here now. Cork 217, Galway 13 points. Siobhan?
Yeah, Cork headed into the water break up by 4 points with the head of a goal from Melissa Duggan. Galway lost a few of their kickouts, which meant Cork was just on top of it, and I think they got a goal from Ciara Sullivan from it. Galway seemed to find it hard going through Cork's defence as they were very tight. After the second half, Cork went ahead again with a brilliant goal from Ciara Sullivan again. Tracy Leonard never seemed to give up and kept Galway scores tipping over, which was a credit to her in all fairness. And Orla Finn was very impressive for Cork there. The Galway with the sin bin didn't really help as well with their chances.
Yeah, no, as Siobhan said, Tracy Leonard, she was a great player for Galway actually. She kept her side in the game really, scoring 6 points and 5 from 3. So you can see she's a great scoring range on her. The sin bin for Galway, Sinead Burke, you could argue maybe wasn't a great help, but kind of a loss to them. You could have seen them coming back, you never know. But Cork did dominate in the first half and put them into a great lead with Duggan putting her team, with a great goal in the first 10 minutes. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Just the way the match went beforehand didn't really help either.
Oh yeah, obviously we'll talk about that in a second. Obviously Melissa Duggan 1-1 from wing back shows you how attacking Cork are. I know they've obviously they lost at the semi-final last year, and in the Camogie they lost the Camogie semi-final this year as well. So it's great that they're actually in the final. Some scoring against last year's finalists, Galway 217, and only 8 points from free. So really, really good showing from Cork. Hopefully they will be able to challenge Dublin. Dublin obviously very, very strong, have cruised into the final again. Armagh did give them a bit of a test, but Dublin never looked like losing anyway. Now obviously beforehand, if anyone missed this somehow, the game was originally fixed between Cork and Galway in the Killick Grounds in Limerick. However, as Limerick hurlers are in the All-Ireland hurling final, which is this weekend, they requested that they have their own stadium for a training match. At the same time that the Cork-Galway game was to be there. It is property, as we know, girls don't actually, there's only one county ground owned by the LGFA, and that's actually up in Armagh. But So the girls obviously were moved, but to Dublin of all places, to Parnell Park. And then obviously on the day there was a bit of controversy, if we remember at the weekend, a lot of fog and ice. We've seen the men football was in a lot of fog, but what happened was at 11 o'clock they were told Parnell Park was not fit for play. So the game was moved to Croke Park, and instead of half one, the game was to be at 1 o'clock. The players arrived, and obviously there was a bit of controversy regarding warm-up times, etc. And I think going ahead, Siobhan.
Yeah, well, obviously no one knows what was in the back, what was said or whatever to the teams, but I think altogether with the LGFA, their communication between everyone with the GA as well should have been more sorted out, especially for an All-Ireland semi. Galway's manager there said that he regretted he didn't walk off the pitch and he should have refused to play, which you can understand in All-Ireland. Like even for any game, a 7-minute warm-up will not prepare you for a big game like that. So they didn't even get coverage for the semi-final because of the time difference. If you've seen that with the Dublin Cavan game or Tipperary Mayo, you've not seen that, it would have been shown somehow. I think it's just very disappointing for both teams, especially Galway, who I think only got a 5-minute warm-up in the end. As I think some report were Staunton saying there that it's very disappointing that it's still happening, that female athletes are still feeling disrespected in 2020. Hopefully it doesn't happen again and that can be sorted and whatever happened, they can counter it.
Yeah, 2020 is meant to be the her sport, the idea for the 20% increase. Obviously women's football has come on leaps and bounds. But Cora Sutton, one of the stalwarts of ladies football, came out saying this was happening 12 years ago and it's still happening now. As you say, it wouldn't happen during the men's, it wouldn't be accepted during the men's, so this is very confusing.
Yeah, no, I just think personally, if I was playing, I would not agree to any of that. Like, you just couldn't see that going on in men's football. Like, you know right well if that was a Dublin team, the match wouldn't have went ahead. They would have maybe rescheduled it, found a different pitch, changed the time. You know, you wouldn't even see that in an under-8 match or any underage game. You know, 7 minutes warm up, that's just not it. Like, not happening. You know, there's nothing you can do with that. And then for the LGFA to come out and say that, you know, they spent too much time in the dressing room, I just think it was a bit unruly, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, you alluded to the communication is obviously a big issue as well. Yeah, Cohen saying they spent too much time. Marie Hickey, possibly like not the right thing to say when we were trying to encourage women's sport. Again, I just know from a boys' point of view that will not happen. All Ireland semi-final. The question was asked of the men's have been put back half an hour to allow the women that proper warm-up, but that wasn't even considered. Obviously, it's great, and I know the LGFA actually praised. We got to play an All-Ireland semi-final in Croke Park.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, because, you know, it's the pride of playing in Croke Park. You know, it's anyone would love the chance to play there, anyone involved in football, you know. But it's just the fact that they weren't given enough time. It just, the background team, you know, they should have had a backup pitch prepared. Like, why wasn't that prepared? Why didn't they have a go-to plan if things didn't work? Because I know if it was a men's, they would have. But I just think it's a bit disgraceful, you know, after such a big All-Ireland semi-final that people are talking about the circumstances rather than the game itself.
Fair enough.
I don't think we've heard any report on the game, like anyone saying Cork's performance was good. Like Galway, they deceptively, they have said that Cork were the better team, but we don't see in the papers that of Galway's performance or Cork's. We just see that what happened in the negative side of it, which doesn't really represent women's football.
No, definitely not. Now, I'll put this to you. There's a call, obviously, should the three associations, the GA, the LGFA, and the Camogie Association, come together to work together. Obviously, the GA own the majority of the pitches, and LGFA and Camogie are very, very happy to take this involved. Like, they're happy to share, no cost, etc. Should all three come together, do you think?
Oh, definitely. I think for things to work more smoothly, you know, there has to be some form of communication between the three. They should be meeting up at least and try and discuss, you know, matches, because even with the men's hurling training, there should have been some form of communication, knowing the night or the day or two before, not on the day that they can't play there, if you get me. But I don't know, I just think if it was me playing the game and having to worry about All-Ireland semi-final, and then having to worry about where we're going to play, if we're going to get warmed up, you know, jerseys, everything like that, stretching, if anyone had an injury, are they going to get physio looked at before the game? Because I know when we go to play football, it's all of that, and that's what you're thinking about, and then it's the game. So I just think it's a lot on the players' mind as well. It might have affected the turnout of the match.
Yeah, I think if all three can communicate and work well together, it shouldn't be a bother. I think everyone is agreement. But if there is little slips like what you see happen at the weekend, I think that could cause maybe a few arguments in it and fall apart. But if they can keep up the communication, as Keith said, really well, and they work together, I think we can see a good collision with all of them together.
That's what we're hoping for. So next week, obviously, we're looking forward to the All-Ireland finals, the main event between Westmeath and Meath. And the girls usually are going to actually be interviewing one of our students who actually plays for Westmeath. And we've also spoken to Ashley Maloney, Tipperary footballer, very well known. Obviously, we were going to get her thoughts. The girls did a great job there as well. And we look forward to the All-Ireland senior girls final next week between Cork and Dublin. So it'll be very good. That will be on next week's show. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good week.